Some might say that free will breeds chaos, and that humanity thrives on that chaos, almost to the point of entropy. It's a classic tale, been told several times, but it makes for a good video game backbone. See, the powers that be, those who protect, those who exploit, they clash against each other trying to keep the world in check so that it doesn't fucking explode. Well, that is what Bayonetta 2 is about, both narratively and functionally. Offense being one power, defense is another. Combat is the chaos. Find equilibrium. Solve for X. Let's break it down.
Bayonetta 2 is a character action game starring the eponymous Bayonetta, an Umbra witch and an all-around badass. She wields two weapons at all times, one in her hands and one affixed to her feet. You can mix and match weapons to your liking, as well as find more by exploring the game's well-hidden secrets. New to the sequel is the Umbran Climax, an ability which grants massive range and damage to all of her attacks. Bayonetta 2 gives you several defensive and offensive tools, then comes at you from all angles. But is it rated S?
In Bayonetta 2, all the different overlapping enemy types and attacks, they create chaos. They'll attack from all angles, with all ranges, with different tells, different speeds of attack, etc. It can get kind of overwhelming, though thankfully the bad guys respect the golden rule of not attacking from fucking off screen. Well, most of the time, because that's just common bad guy courtesy.
Not including all the bonkers-ass minigames and absurd excursions Bayonetta goes on throughout this game, most of Bayonetta 2 consists of exploring areas, fighting jerks, and taking on massive bosses.
This just in, we have a giant hair dog monster being pummeled on the side of a skyscraper by a giant hair woman. Stay safe, everyone.
But boss fights don't carry the same feeling that normal enemy fights do, which is important for justifying the inclusion of bosses at all. Most normal enemy fights go something like this. Wait. Redo. Let's break this into combat roles. You've got these main bad guys. They call them tanks, of which the game definitely has the grandest variety. They tend to have lots of health, or they can parry, or are fast, or just hurt a fucking lot. Or all of those things. They're mean, and they hit you in the face a lot. Then you have the small jerks and footmen who apply pressure and interrupt your combos. They may seem like they're just cannon fodder, but they have a very important role regarding your perception of combat, which we'll get to shortly. Lastly, there are ranged attackers and casters who like to fade out of view after beginning a charge attack, or use lockdowns to lock you down. They're also assholes. That's pretty much it for like 95% of the enemies in the game.
Enemies from at least two of these three roles will be present in almost every fight, though sometimes they just throw in like 4 mini-bosses because fuck you. But for the most part, you're gonna have to identify all these different enemies' character traits and their combat strategies on the fly, so having roles which the enemies fit into is very helpful for that.
Now, obviously you're going to figure out individual enemies over time, and no one enemy is key to Bayonetta 2's combat chaos, but some of their shared functions are. For instance, a decent few of the larger enemies have the ability to parry.
I'd list their names, but I usually just go with something like Centaur Asshole or Giant Scythe Motherfucker. It's about as much respect as they get from me.
Parries are very quick, and most enemies will capitalize on them immediately, so if you're going to mash town on the attack central line, the monster in question is gonna... I ran out of train lingo, but you know, they're gonna hit you a bunch, is what I'm saying. So at first I found this new perfunctory parry proficiency perturbing, but then I realized that the parries exist, and in more frequency than in the original game, to get you to evade more. Like many a character action game, in Bayonetta, there is no block, only dodge. If you perfectly time your evasion, Bayonetta will enter witch time, during which time slows down and your attacks can't be parried. This gives you space to do lengthier combos for guaranteed damage.
Also, aerial combos, which are now, and have always been, the coolest things ever.
On the subject of combo length, you'll note that it's kinda rare that you'll pull off a full 6 or 5 button combo on a tank type without Umbran Climax until you're down to just maybe 1 or 2 enemies to hit. With parries and range attacks and all kinds of angelic bullshit flying every which way, getting to the full 6 button payoff is kinda tough. This of course means nailing full combos is all the more rewarding, especially when they look as awesome as they do in Bayonetta. Earlier I mentioned that the footmen are important to understanding the chaos. This is because you can hit them more or less unassailed until they're fucking dead. Since you can easily do full combos on footmen, which becomes almost an automatic process, you can take a moment to see which other threats are left in the back of the fight, or which ones are just now spawning in. It's important that combat flows as such, or you'd feel all the stress of survival without really being able to enjoy the reprieve of success.
That battle results screen, or you get a little medal and it's like, oh, you did pretty good, or wow, you're super great. That's something that you work for, something you anticipate. And obviously not every battle is going to challenge you to the point of extreme focus where you get a good rank on a boss fight and you shit your fucking pants. Sometimes you get a good rank on just a random fight, but it still feels good because the game is paced evenly. But what are all those little moments without a climax? First though, let's talk about thematic pairing.
The balance of light and dark are key themes throughout the story of Bayonetta. I'll avoid major spoilers, suffice to say that you do fight infernals, or demons, this time around. The right eye of light and the left eye of darkness, two powers of the overseers granted to humanity alongside their free will. The eyes serve as a precaution against the growing chaos granted by human greed. Now, while I am thoroughly impressed with the story of this game, I bring it up not to talk plot points, but themes. The light and dark must both be proficient, present, and balanced in Bayonetta's version of Earth. The combat follows the exact same logic, with both offense and defense being equally important in order to suppress the chaos of combat. Bayonetta can dispatch foes in a fantastic variety of ways. From the sweeping swipes of the Chernobog to the swift slashes of the Rakshasa, there's no situation for which she doesn't have a weapon with which to get shit done. This alone gives the player quite a bit of offensive power,
and all of the weapons are worth trying at least 80 times. I mean, double whips, flamethrower arms, chainsaw skates. That's not even, it's not even a thing. It's not even a thing in real life.
But none of these glorious gore-getters are infallible. There are enemies which necessitate every sort of strategy and weapon combination imaginable. It would require an egregious amount of skill to perfect this game with too narrow a mindset. Bayonetta's design thus smartly coerces you into expanding your mindset by providing such varied encounters.
The job of offense in balancing the chaos of combat is obviously killing stuff. It's eliminating threats, making all the stuff fucking go by. That's what offense is for. And for the most part, you can take your favorite weapon combinations and use them for mostly everything. As long as you know the combos and you do the right combos at the right time and you execute them well, etc. But you don't get to just do that unchecked. Obviously, the bad guys are gonna try to stop you. That's where defense comes in.
First of all, let's get this out of the way. You can't win if you're fucking dead, so obviously defense is just as important as killing everything. But it's deeper than that in Bayonetta. Knowing when to be defensive, when to go for shorter combos and watch for incoming attacks, that's the key to getting massive damage output, not just hitting the buttons. And that's in part because enemies have no fucking shame and will absolutely all attack you at once, but also because of the aforementioned witch time. The longer you're in witch time, the more damage you do and the more magic you'll get to use more Umbran climaxes. Defense begets offense. Learning your enemy's behaviors and the weaknesses of your current weapon combinations is key to prioritizing your targets. Dodging ranged attacks, then using dashes to quickly close the gap on more evasive enemies rewards you for your field awareness. The list goes on and on.
Playing defensively means paying attention to how you're being attacked and reacting appropriately. Not just cartwheeling across the fucking stage until everyone is just gonna let you have your space. That's not what defense is about. That's not how it works in this game, for sure. You have to be able to dish out damage, you have to be able to kill stuff, but some things are gonna demand that you play more reactively. Bayonetta 2 smartly does that. It creates a necessity for offense and for defense. Equilibrium. In the same sense that light and dark seek equilibrium to protect humanity from itself.
While in the story, equilibrium merely ensures that the world can go on existing without being torn asunder by some crazy motherfucker, in the gameplay, it means fluidity. All the best action games, and especially character action games, have that sense of punch, of drama on a big hit, either dealt or received, that impact moment when you recoil because you didn't evade fast enough, or the shameless fuck yeah as you defeat a boss flawlessly and get that pure platinum rank.
Pure platinum? Platinum rank? Platinum rank games. Note to self.
And you know, without that fluidity, those moments, they don't happen. Difficult boss fights building to fantastic crescendos wouldn't work at all if you didn't have the tools necessary to evade and counter in a fashion the game has properly taught you. During boss fights, Bayonetta achieves this by smoothly integrating large tells with large damaging attacks. This gives you room to play defensively, then a payoff period to wail on your enemy's arms or face or butt or whatever, with an equally painful punishment for yourself if you fuck up. When you get to bosses like the Lumen Sage, you'll really get a feel for that fluidity. He has ranged attacks, gap closers, area attacks, quick attacks, he got everything. He has everything Bayonetta has.
Except those kick-ass shoes. Although the mask almost makes up for it.
You have to react quickly to counter his attacks with strategies of your own, pounding that health bar into absolution until the glorious Climax prompt appears. Then shit goes nuts and you're along for the ride, mashing the buttons for them gigatons of power, and reaping the benefits of your efforts. And trust me, with all the ridiculously gruesome and over-the-top summons Bayonetta has in her employ, Bayonetta 2 absolutely nails the hype built up from a boss fight.
Now, whether or not this game had any intention of pairing the chaos in its story with the chaos in its combat, I don't fucking know. Maybe I am reaching, I have no idea. Kamiya sure as hell won't say. I don't want to be called an insect and get blocked on Twitter. I'm not into that. But I do know that this game is chaotic, and in the same sense that it's infuriating sometimes, it can be immensely satisfying. And not to mention, it's always fair. You know, that balance that it strikes between challenge and reward is rare. It's very, very rare that it is so evenly distributed throughout the game. So yeah, rated S, like, duh. But beyond that, it comes with the first fucking game! And 90% of what I said in this video applies to that game too! Buy a Wii U, idiots! See ya!
Hello everybody, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it, and if you are so inclined, please feel free to like the video with the little like button press. It's pretty easy. You probably know how to do it. And if you have any opinions about Bayonetta 2 that I didn't cover because I can't talk about everything about this fucking amazing game, then leave them in the comments, because that's what comments are for. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe.